From the moment the MAGA Supreme Court reversed Roe, as Donald Trump promised they would, many of us warned that the hard right would not stop there in eliminating reproductive freedoms. Over the past few months, we've seen how IVF has become the hard right's next target. Republicans can't claim to be pro-family on one hand, only to block pro-family policies like federal protections for IVF and the child tax credit. But that's what they did this summer, and I hope we get a different outcome when we vote for a second time. The American people will be watching.
So they're gonna do a bill to protect access to IVF. Now you might be wondering, why is this about dysfunction? We're gonna get to the dysfunction. I wanna make sure that you know what the bill would actually do so that you can understand why it's so insane that it's not gonna actually pass.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
So it establishes a right for patients to access IVF treatments, for doctors to provide them, and for insurance to cover them. So IVF is protected. Authorizes the DOJ to file civil lawsuits to protect individuals' right to IVF. So if someone tries to stop you from having access to the thing that's your right, they can do something about it. Require employer-sponsored insurance and public insurance plans to cover IVF. That would be new, by the way. That has not been available, but I will remind you, Donald Trump like 3 weeks ago said this is what it should be. Okay, bear that in mind. And allows service members to freeze eggs/sperm prior to deploying into dangerous areas. I haven't heard of that before. That sounds like a great plan. What a great way to support our troops. So all of that, super reasonable, okay? The last time in June, it only received 48 votes in favor of passage, short of the 60 it would have needed, because the assumption is just that everything is filibustered without needing to be filibustered. And so 2 GOP senators, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, supported it, none of the other Republicans. So bear that in mind. When they say that they love IVF, IVF is great. Yeah, they're not voting that way. And here is the dysfunction part, okay? When you ask Americans, is access to IVF a good thing? 70% say good thing. 22% aren't sure. It's not something that a lot of people, especially younger people, have thought about. Only 8% say it's a bad thing. It is one of the least hated things anywhere in American politics. Only 8% say you shouldn't have it. I don't know if you can come up with another thing that has that unanimous level of support. And by the way, when you break it down, it's even crazier. Look at this poll. Everybody supports it. Men and women, the religious, the non-religious, Republicans and Democrats. Here's my favorite chart though. Let's go to this last one. Even among those who you'd expect to be against IVF, barely any are. So this is amongst people who say that abortion should be illegal in all cases. The most radical anti-abortion people still 2-to-1 support IVF. And yet, what's the dysfunction? It's not gonna pass. Even though everyone agrees that you should have it, even though Donald Trump calls himself a leader on IVF, said the government should fund it, and we know he can whip votes if he needs to or if he wants to, it's not gonna happen. Our government is utterly broken. What do you think?
I mean, I think this is a good move from Chuck Schumer. Like, I'm so glad that they're doing this. I think this is politically advantageous, which at this point, that's what they're looking to, because they know that, like you said, Republicans will find some reason to vote this down, even though they swear that they're supporting it. And it'll put JD Vance in a terrible position, given that he was in the Senate, is in the Senate, and also voted this down the first time. They'll have some, run around about, it forces employers and small businesses to cover costs, whatever it is. It's great. I think that we should do more of this. And I think Democrats sadly don't. I mean, this is kind of like it's a little bit of a force the vote moment, but it's a thing that like people like Bernie Sanders do a lot, because they want people to be on record saying, yes, I vote down a $15 minimum wage, Kyrsten Sinema, and on and on and on. And it's good. People remember their votes. People remember these votes, and especially women in these red states will remember how their senators voted on this.
Yeah, it's so, nothing can get done. Literally nothing. By the way, JD Vance might have skipped the vote last time, I think, because he says he supports it, but he doesn't want to actually vote for it. None of them voted for it. I think he might have just skipped it. But again, he says that you should have the right, but not enough to actually vote for it. None of them, two Republicans voted in favor of something that virtually every Republican says you should have.
And it were the two women, right? I mean, we're talking Susan Collins.
Two women, yeah. And by the way, So Democrats obviously want to be able to say, hey, we've protected these rights, but shouldn't the Republicans want, like, let's do this so that we can go and say, they say we're radicals, and hell, we just protected your right. We expanded your right. They call us radicals. Well, we just did this. They don't even care enough to do that. Utterly broken government. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.